Anand Giridharadas. And he was on MSNBC offering more of this nonsense today.
Particularly the media ecosystem it's not a good one, it's a negative one, it's a radicalization funnel. But what they have done in their online media ecosystem is build a radicalization engine, literally the way militant groups do around the world, that takes people from relatively low-level annoyances with the world. Why are eggs so expensive? Why is my kid learning this new thing in American history in school that I didn't learn? And then moves them through YouTube videos, through podcasts, moves them from that annoyance all the way slowly to a full-blown fascist politics. It's an elaborate multi-billion-dollar infrastructure, and there is nothing like it on the pro-democracy side. We don't have when a man is just lost and lonely and not yet radicalized, we don't have the equivalent of Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson to move that man in a feminist direction. By the way, we should educate men that it's actually really great to live with a strong woman who makes money. It's actually easier. Life is easier.
But I think...
You're an idiot. You actually literally had Joe Rogan on your side up until recently. You're so dumb. Joe Rogan was a Bernie Sanders supporter last time around. Your nonsense idiocy on these woke issues in particular moved him over to the side of the normies. He was norm before, but you guys became so radical. He said, I want no part of you. Same. I can totally relate. I was open-minded. I was never a feminist, but I certainly was listening on where women were in America. And then your absolute insanity radicalized me the other way, to stand up against you, to fight you with everything I have, because you're destructive and you're deeply, deeply wrong. And my standing up for female empowerment, which I've done my entire life, does not require me to shit all over American men. I'm sorry. But this is why I never called myself a feminist to begin with, because I knew what you leftists thought of feminism. It meant abortion and crapping on men. And most of us women over on the side of the normies don't want that. We love our husband. We love our boys, our sons, our dads, our brothers, our male friends and colleagues. And we are not ready to consider this a zero-sum game where we must advance at their expense. Until you get that through your thick fucking head, you'll keep losing. You will keep losing. And I look forward to watching your tears. She's like, Joy Reid, with your white tears. It's infuriating, but it's somewhat encouraging too, right? Like I said, they're going to keep losing. They're going to keep losing. That one really fired me up. He's so clueless. And now what we're seeing, in addition to all of this, is that there is a sizable portion. I don't know whether it's the majority. I don't know what size, but sizable of these people who don't even believe any of the bullshit they've been pushing on us. They don't believe it. We heard Scarborough this week. We talked about that earlier, how he was like, there isn't a person who comes over for dinner who doesn't say, my college student doesn't feel like she can say anything. She's going to get canceled on our college campus. Where were you? Where were you fighting for her prior to losing your credibility? Yes, that happened long ago. But the election this week, where were you? And then revealing on Morning Joe, you know what really had effect in this election? The boys playing in girls' sports. Right, 85% of America is against it. That really needs to stop. Where were you assholes when the rest of us were advocating for those girls? You know where you were? You were calling us transphobes. I've talked about this myself. I talked about, and as you guys know, I've had my own evolution on this. I was on the wrong side of this 10 years ago. Totally wrong side. And, I've bored you guys with a lot of that story. But there was a moment with Dr. Keith Abloh when he came on my show in 2012. Cher's daughter, Chastity Bono, was transitioning to, male in air quotes, and was on Dancing with the Stars. And Keith Abloh came on my show and said, I really don't think this is a good idea. I think there's a bit of a social contagion. I'm rephrasing what he said, but And it's not smart to highlight this. And it wasn't about hating on trans people. It was about the more we celebrate this in the public eye, the more of it we're going to get. It's not something we should be encouraging. And I chastised him and said, we've had too much hate against trans people. It came from the heart. But I owe Dr. Abloh an apology. I've said this before, and I do apologize to him because he was right and I was wrong. And I want to hear that from Joe Scarborough and Willie Geist. It is not enough to say, gee, the lawn sign saying keep boys out of girls' sports did really well. Open your eyes. Argue, advocate for our girls. Do what's right instead of pandering to your leftist viewers who don't want to hear it. And that brings me to this guy you've probably never heard of before. Seth Moulton, Moulton. He's a congressman from Massachusetts, the 6th district. He went to Harvard University, happens to be a retired U.S. Marine who served 4 tours in Iraq. And for that, we thank him. This guy comes out and says the following. This is not on camera, is it, guys? This is just okay. This is a written statement. Okay. He says the following, quote, Democrats, this is in the wake of Kamala losing. Democrats spend way too much time trying not to offend anyone rather than being brutally honest about the challenges many Americans face. I have 2 little girls. I don't want them getting run over on a playing field by a male or formerly male athlete. But as a Democrat, I'm supposed to be afraid to say that. Well, I first read this and thought, Seth, that's wonderful. Thank you for speaking the truth. Right. By the way, there's no such thing as formerly male. But okay, you're almost there. Welcome to Team Reason. Here he is. And then my team looked a little bit into Seth Moulton of Massachusetts, courtesy of The Hill, thehill.com, and found the following about this guy. You're not going to believe this. He hasn't just been quiet on the trans issue because he's afraid. He's been openly pushing it at every turn. He co-sponsored House Democrats' Transgender Bill of Rights, which, among other protections, reading here from The Hill, would guarantee trans athletes would guarantee them the right to participate in girl sports, in the sport of the team that matches their so-called gender identity. Moulton voted against the Protection of Women and Girls in Sport Act, which had sought to change Title IX to recognize sex as based solely on a person's genetics at birth. That's our side. He voted against it and voted affirmatively for the law that would mandate their entrance into girls' sports. Moulton and Tom Souza's 2024 campaigns were endorsed by the hateful Human Rights Campaign, which I just told you about. And Moulton is a member of the Congressional Equality Caucus, which promotes LGBTQ equality in the House and has condemned Republican-led legislation targeting transgender rights, including an effort to prohibit student athletes from competing on sports teams that align with their so-called gender identity. I have one more for you. In March of 2023, he posted on Instagram, this guy, Seth Moulton. With anti-trans bills passing across the U.S., let me be clear. This kind of hate fuels fear and violence and leads to thousands of suicides every year. That's a lie. We must continue to defend the rights of our transgender brothers, sisters, and friends everywhere. That's the same guy who issued this statement today in the wake of their loss on Tuesday. Democrats spend way too much time trying not to offend anyone rather than being brutally honest about the challenges many Americans face. I have 2 little girls. I don't want them getting run over on a playing field by a male or formerly male athlete. But as a Democrat, I'm supposed to be afraid to say that. Seth Moulton, go F yourself. You fucking cretin. You created this problem. You put the legislation in place that hurt these little girls. Where is your damned apology? Where is your mea culpa? Where is your come to Jesus moment? I don't give a shit about your paper statement saying, oh, gee, my poor daughters, you screwed them. They're in danger because of you. It's your fault. Get out there and reverse this shit. My God, my potty mouth today. Forgive me. I just can't believe this. This is why it's so wonderful to now watch them suffer. Go down. You're going down. Trust in the media is at an all-time low. Can you blame them? Let's be honest. There's very good reason for this. We're all seeing how stories can be shaped or buried or killed or manipulated, depending on who's in charge. And this is why I want to tell you about a platform that does not play by those rules, one that prioritizes transparency above all else. Listen to this. The platform's called Ground News, an app and website that gathers related articles from around the world in one place, highlighting each source's political bias and corporate influence. And they show you stories that are underreported by one side of the political spectrum. A recent Gallup survey showed declining trust in mass media, and guess who didn't cover it? Left-leaning media. On Ground News, more than 80% of the coverage of this story is coming from right-leaning sources. Ground News has an entire blind spot feed with stories like this that are receiving lopsided coverage. And my viewers get 50% off their Vantage plan, which gives you unlimited access to their website and to their app. They are independent. They are supported by subscribers, not corporate interests. Check them out at groundnews.com/Megyn. That's ground, GROUND, news.com/Megyn to take back control of the news you consume. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.